everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Source. My name is Michelle Velasquez, and along with me is
Hi everyone, it's Tamika Tomlinson coming right at you. I am the active president for the New England North, and we have a great program in store for you today. We're so glad to have you.
yes, today we are talking about school blues. I'm sure a lot of us have been experiencing some sort of overload, some sort of, a different way of studying and learning. Some of us have been teachers teaching, some of us have been students learning. But either way, we've been on that virtual platform. So we're talking all about it today, and we welcome you. We thank you for joining us. Before we begin, we're going to start out with prayer. So let's pray.
Right.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing us to this program this afternoon as we talk about some of the struggles and challenges that we have in our journey in life. We ask that you may be a part of it and that you may send words of wisdom to encourage us all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, so we were able to hear from one of our college student who's at Oakwood, Malika, and she has a lot on her mind. Um, and before we go there, we want to tell you about our giveaway that we have. We have one of our, if you were on our last show where we teamed up with the New England North pastors, they had a book. We had Pastor Knight and we had Pastor Cadet on, and they were talking about this book. And so we have a copy just for one of our viewers. Now you have to be subscribed and you have to share and like our video, okay? And Michelle, there's one
First
more thing
newest
we have to do.
subscriber.
Oh, the
First
newest
newest
subscriber.
subscriber will
Okay.
receive a free copy. As a matter of fact, let's say two. The next two subscribers will be getting a copy of our book, of this book for free. All right. So join in,
So
subscribe, and we are going to be giving out this special prize today.
So head on over to our page, share it with your friends, and also you may be that lucky winner to get one of these books. So let's head over to Malika as she tells us what's on her mind.
Hi, my name is Malika Jarvis, and I am a freshman at Oakwood University. So far, when I came to Oakwood, and just college in general, I wasn't expecting such a family-orientated environment. I feel like, especially with the administration, everything's done with love. And I feel like you have a great support system here. I feel as though it helps a lot when you're able to be in an environment and you're away from home, but you don't feel like you're in a strange environment, but you're with people who still care about you even though they don't know you as well. With COVID, I feel like it's kind of dimmed down the Oakwood experience. I've loved it from what I've seen so far, but I feel as though with COVID it kind of makes the familial environment kind of downplayed and kind of, it's just like we have to stay separated because we don't want to give each other COVID. It's a really hard experience. Education-wise, it's just been very difficult. Personally, because you lose the interactive portion, especially in classes where you would need that face-to-face interaction. And I feel like this goes for all students who are in school all across the board from kindergarten to university level. It's just really hard, and I feel like you lose that personal connection. I feel as though college has lived up to my expectations just because I knew because of COVID it wouldn't be the same experience, but I feel as though the University of Arts, which is Oakwood, has done a very good job of making sure that we still have a college experience, and it's insane to feel like we were freshmen and we were here, but at the same time it's like, wow, we didn't get the full freshman experience. But overall, I've had a great time, and thank you so much.
All right. So, Malika had a lot to say.
Sure did. And I like how candid she was about her experience at Oakwood. So
Yes.
Tamika, can you? I wanted to ask you a question, quick question, before we even go into our other college students that we will talk to directly today. I wanted to ask you about your experience doing the online thing. I know that you are a teacher as well, and you've had to do some sort of online um, teaching or virtual teaching or hybrid teaching or in-person teaching during the pandemic. What has your experience been?
So for the majority of 2020, we were all off. So I work with early childhood, so I'm not necessarily in elementary. But I have seen in our school we do have some students that come in, they're hybrid, and they do have a tough time just going on and sitting down doing PE on the internet. It's just a different experience, and sometimes they really struggle with that. For me personally, I mean, I do prefer going in and interacting with the kids. It's just a better experience, especially when they're that young. Um, and that's what my experience has been. And now we're back in the classroom, not full time, but back in the classroom nonetheless. And the kids, they enjoy being with each other, and yes, they find it very hard to do that 6 feet apart thing. And so, it's just a learning experience for everyone because we're now in a new world. It's a new era. It's everything. It will never be the same. So we just have to adjust. And it's good to see how well the children have adjusted to it. Actually, keeping their mask on and just keeping those measures that are in place. What about you, Michelle? Because
Well,
you're on
I've been
hybrid,
pretty
right?
much, yeah, we've been hybrid. We've been at school, we've been at home, we've done all of it online, we've done hybrid, and we are looking towards maybe possibly moving towards fully back into school. So, can I tell you, it's been a roller coaster, and at the same time, it's been a learning experience, and at the same time, it's been good. So,
Hmm.
I have had just a whole long set of experiences and feelings towards everything, but it's definitely been a challenge. All right, at
Yeah.
this time we're gonna pull everybody in. So we have with us some young folk who are in college right now. We have joining us Wade Noah Blair, and he goes to La Sierra University. Wade, please say hello and share something. Share what you are studying. Tell us what you're studying at school.
Hello, uh, my name is Wade. I'm studying marketing and management at school La Sierra University. That's where I'm located right now. And it's been pretty fun, I would say, so far. Not what I expected, and I'm pretty sure not everybody expected this as well. But I've been dealing it with it in my own way.
Hmm.
All right. And next we have Ashley and Francis. Ashley is a student at Oakwood University. Ashley, welcome to the source. Please tell us about yourself and what you're studying at Oakwood.
Hi, my name's Ashley, and I'm majoring in the biology department, trying to be a doctor one day. So that's what I'm
Awesome.
studying at Oakwood University.
All
Awesome.
right,
I just
welcome.
want I want to commend you guys for, in spite of COVID, you're still deciding to pursue your dreams and, going to college and just getting it. So I just want to commend you guys for that.
All right, so we're going to
Great.
have a conversation with you guys. Tell us a little bit about your experience at school. I know for Ashley, she started, because she's a freshman, she started her college experience in the middle of this pandemic. So, Ashley, tell me, what is the highlight? What has been the highlight of your experience at Oakwood in the pandemic? What is the most memorable experience that you've had that you'd like to share? It could be something good, it could be something not so good. Just share what you have on your mind.
most memorable memory that I've had at Oakwood during the pandemic is when they set up like for all the students to go to the skating rink on campus. They made it very safe in order for a good amount of us to go. Of course, following the rules and the regulations. But that was most memorable for me to be out with me and my friends. And then sometimes they have movie nights outside on the lawn, 6 feet apart, and we're all able to go there with our blankets and we get to spend time together. And we still have also like our Sabbath worship sometimes outside. Like we'll have like, just some service sometimes with singing. So that's good to also go to when you've been having like a rough week during school. So those are some of my most memorable moments on campus.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now I'm going to contrast it with because you're a freshman. Wade, you are in is it your second or third year of college?
I'm actually in my last year of college right now,
What?
so it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Wow, time has really flown by. Okay, so you were there, you started college without the pandemic, and then you went back to finish up your last year in the
hmm
pandemic. So can you contrast the difference between what college was like before to what it is now?
Yes. I yeah, my first year compared to it now, it's different in terms of ways that obviously we can't see each other, we can't touch each other, we can't like be there. But for the first year, I feel like it's very critical in terms of orientation and then making friends, and then those same friends from orientation being there throughout the rest of the years. And so since I didn't have COVID during that time, I was able to make those friends, and it was more lively. Classes were more lively, more, I guess, in person, and just, I guess, they felt better, more relaxed. When I had to go to uh, online classes, at first I didn't think it was going to be for a long time. So we did it, and it was cool at first because everything was simple. You just had to show up, most likely not put your camera on, and just have the class running in the background. I don't advise that, but some of the classes, the professors don't really try that much. So it's kind of like a laid back kind of situation. And at this point, I would love for it to go back to the way it was, because it was great while it lasted, because classes were, simple. Assignments were more like laid back because teachers had to adjust themselves throughout the entire environment. But now it's like, yeah, let's get back into the classroom, because I do prefer it better, just because you're able to make relationships so much more easier.
Mhm.
Will you continue after finishing, Wade? Or is this it for you? Are you done with school altogether?
Yeah, after this, I want to say I am done with school. As in, like, I don't feel like
Did
right
it?
now I need to go back. Yeah, I just feel like let's get this degree and let's get out and do what we got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have one last question for you guys. Can you, if you've said, if you've had any experiences during the pandemic that have caused you to have um maybe, or have you had any experiences that have caused you to feel overly stressed, where maybe if there wasn't this social distancing, maybe if there wasn't all these tests that you may have to take, um, it would have been different. Can you share any experience that you've had and how you've dealt with it? Um, Anything that's happened that's really made you feel super stressed, maybe the workload, or just share something that you've experienced that you can share with us.
Um, for me, it's just having exams, midterms, and then finals. Like the finals are this month, but throughout my whole time for the second semester, I'm always having exams and quizzes, like all at once, and it's a lot of questions to answer, and that kind of stresses me out. And not only that, like the teachers like cram up a whole bunch of work on top of that. So it's just like, in order for me to like cope, sometimes I just take time to myself because it's like hard to like, just talk to people and like you feel like you're losing yourself because you're pressuring yourself so hard because you're not trying to fail. But like sometimes it gets the best of you. So
So the workload was a little bit
yeah.
more because it was online.
Because of the pandemic, yeah, the workload, I feel like I would be learning a lot more physically than this online stuff. Because I've taken online school, but it was kind of different because I still had like, physical contact with other people.
Right.
But now everything is online, and like when you need help, you can't always reach your teacher because they're doing something. And it's just like, it becomes a lot. It takes a toll on people.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Go ahead, Wade. Please share your
Uh,
experience.
yeah, I would have to agree with the test and quizzes only because usually when I would prepare for a test, it would be with a group or a partner. And seeing that I could not go to the library, I could not just, say, all right, let's just hang out in the dorms and, study for this test. And instead, it would have to be on Zoom. I never did it. Even group work was a struggle because people would not have their cameras on. They would be kind of lazy. There's no accountability through Zoom, like breakout rooms or anything like that. So that was very difficult for me when I was just getting adjusted, when I was just, getting things out the gate with the whole like pandemic situation and being online. That was like probably the biggest struggle there, just getting people, holding people accountable and like getting group work done.
Okay.
Okay. What are, do you think, some creative ways that you can share with some of your peers when it comes to online learning? Like, what are some of those things that you do to, keep it interesting? Because it's easy to just stay in your PJs and just roll over, right? But how do you motivate yourself to get up and go? You want to share with your friends? Oh, sorry, Ashley, we weren't hearing you. Go
Oh,
ahead.
Oh, for me personally, I like candles in my room to calm me down, and like sometimes when I study, that way I remember things. Um, I also like I clean a lot more because like I remember the founder of my school used to teach me that if everything else is going bad around you, like a clean room will like just make you feel better. And at least you know you're doing one thing right. So that's what I do every single week. Sometimes I feel like I clean every day, so that also helps me feel better.
Okay, awesome. What about you, Wade?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of the opposite of that. I mean, I have my candle, but cleaning is more of a chore for me, like relaxing. Um, if I was gonna give any piece of advice, that would have to be with the groups again, because I just feel like in most of my classes they're like group orientated and just doing a lot of like projects. So I would just say get numbers as soon as possible, so that way communication is easier. Just not like emailing each other back and forth, just straight up numbers. Um, Texting each other, making a silly group name chat or something like that. That's one way that I try and keep it interesting anytime that I'm in a class kind of situation, because everybody seems to be feeling the same exact way of just like, yeah, this is kind of over this right now, but we have to do it because we have no other choice.
Well, thank you so guys for joining us and for sharing. You guys are being troopers. You guys are brave and strong, and God has placed you in this position for a time as this to be strong and know that He will strengthen you. We're always praying for you guys. So go ahead and share God with others in your experience. Thank you for joining us on the source, and we will now welcome in our other guests. Thank you for joining us, Ashley and Wade. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. So, like Michelle said, we have some other guests that are coming on, but we want to hear from you, our viewers. There's some of you that are watching right now. You want to share some of your experience. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. And don't forget to subscribe and like our page. All right. So when we come back from this break, we're going to hear from Dr. Alert and Dr. Domer and Mr. Barret, and they have some tips that they'd like to share with you. So we'll be right back right after this.
All right, welcome back to the source, where God is who we turn to. At this time, we're going to bring in our guests. We've had our young college guests. Now we're going to have our professors and teachers and doctors come in, and we're going to continue this conversation about education and where God wants us to be there. So today, we're going to be welcoming to the source Dr. Yonnette Semple-Domer. Hi,
Thank
and
you for
welcome to
having
the
me.
source. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for fun.
Okay, that's a loaded question, but good afternoon. I am Yonnette Semple-Domer. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist in the 16th largest public school in the United States of America. I am the president of a private career school. I am the CEO of a home health care agency. I am a mother, a wife, and I love working with children. Children bring me so much joy because they're so impressionable, and I have an opportunity to mold them into being their best selves.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Domer, for joining us on The Source today. We're happy to have you. And if for those of you who don't know, Dr. Domer is my sister, my older sister. We're happy to have you on The Source today.
We also have Dr. Marissa Alert. We want to invite you on. Hi, Marissa.
Hey,
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what are those things that you like?
absolutely. So I am a clinical psychologist and I work in clinical product development. And so creating digital products and interventions to help people better manage chronic conditions such as diabetes, pre-diabetes, and any mental health conditions as well. And what I love to do for fun is cook and eat. Also travel, but that has been quite difficult with the pandemic. So I'm doing a lot of staycations.
Welcome. We're so glad to have you. And
Yeah, glad to be
it's
here.
so glad to see you after all these years,
I
right?
know it's probably been like
Okay.
15 years since I last saw you.
I know. So good to have you. And our last guest, last but not least, is Mr. Barret. Oh, hi, how are
Hello,
you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me on the program.
Please share. Tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do and what you like to do for fun. We want to know.
Okay, my name is Andrew Barret. I am teaching at the Berea Seventh-day Adventist Academy, math and science. I'm also a family person. I have a wife, my wife Claudia Barret, and two daughters, two lovely daughters. As a matter of fact, one of them is currently a freshman in college. Started during this pandemic. One of the things that I like to do, and I think my family sharing in that as well, is actually traveling. So, the pandemic has really put a damp on that. We had the opportunity of traveling different continents. And so we just want to thank God for that opportunity. And we hope one day we'll be able to do that again.
All right. We are happy to have you on The Source. Let's get this conversation going. All right, everyone. So I'm going to throw this question out to everybody right away. What has been your experience coming from a professional standpoint of the pandemic in your professional life? I know some of us have been working from home. Some of us have been some of us are teachers and have been going out to school and working with children. Tell me, share a little bit about the highlight of your experience, whether good or bad, since this pandemic. And feel free to jump in. I am not going to be picking on anybody. So go
Mhm.
ahead. Let's have the conversation.
I can get started. It has been pretty great working from home. As an introvert, the small talk in the office and, the chit chat by the cooler was just not something I ever look forward to. And I'm pretty used to working independently. And so having the opportunity to create my own schedule with, to some extent, and being able to work at hours that I find that I'm most productive, I think has been really, really great. And as someone who, is pretty self-driven, it just created like the perfect opportunity for me. Ideally, without the pandemic, working from home would have allowed me to work from anywhere in the world. But I'm adjusting to that, so that's all right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I can say similar to Marissa. I am also the reserve stay-at-home type, but the pandemic has given me opportunities that I can say were positive and negative. I'm now able to eat lunch with my family at 12 p.m. every day. We prepare lunch and we eat together. And I no longer have to travel my 3 hour day to get to take my son to work, to school, and myself to work. So that has given me a few hours to play with. The part of the whole experience that I don't like is that my work never ends. I am very driven when it comes to producing, but my work never ends because I'm always looking for the next opportunity, the next thing to do, to balance things, to get things in, to get to the extra level, to the higher level that I can get to. And so, from that perspective, the pandemic has caused me to overwork, I would say, myself. From the perspective of being a therapist, I have found that lots of my kids who have struggled in a larger environment with so many sensory stimulation coming towards them have been blossoming in this virtual environment where they have the opportunity to be with their parents and get the love and attention from their parents, and they're doing quite well in the pandemic. Additionally, I have been able to do my therapy online, provide teletherapy, and this has exposed the field of occupational therapy to a lot of parents, because parents know that their children receive therapy, but they don't quite get what we do. And so you're always explaining over and over and giving strategies, but the implementation of these strategies at home doesn't quite happen. So with us getting into the home and being able to provide services with the parent present has been a tremendous blessing for a lot of my children that I work with. There are children who struggle, yes, and there are children that I have who blossom in an environment where they can interact with their peers and be the person that makes the loudest joke, and they're the ones who are struggling. But then from the perspective of having these varied opportunities, we can develop, and all the children and people that we interact with within this pandemic can develop the parts of themselves that are weaker, and make them more rounded, make each individual a more rounded person in the context of this experience.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I could agree with the ladies in so many areas as well. I would say for me as well, being adaptive and also learning. I think there was a lot of learning experiences for me as a teacher. We I learned so much about the use of technology and how to integrate my lessons, which could be more beneficial in to the point where after this pandemic, there are some things that will never go away. They must remain in my archive. There are, of course, we find downside to that as well. And for me, especially on the side of the students, where I think, it promotes some distractions and other areas I'm sure that we'll talk about later. But I like the fact, just like the ladies, I don't have to travel to work. On some of right now, I am, we are in a hybrid situation. But when we're fully online, I spent a lot more time with my family. some things that we did not do before, like exercising. Every morning we could go for a walk, things like that, because the time saved in traffic, I could do that to take care of ourselves. And so, there are many opportunities. There are some advantages and disadvantages to the pandemic, and I'm sure we'll discuss more of those as we move forward.
Yeah, I'm hearing from mostly everyone that, it's great to be home, and that for the majority of the kids, they're doing better because, I was reading this article that's saying that kids don't feel like they're being micromanaged anymore. There's more flexibility where they can, do their coursework, they're learning independence and all that stuff. However, for the young one, I see that they're really struggling. For the younger kids, they're really struggling. And I wonder if there's someone watching that has a child that is going through it. What could you say to that parent of how to help their child adjust a little better? Because that's been my experience with the younger ones. I like to hear from maybe Mr. Domer, you want to jump in?
Yeah. Well, it has really been a difficult time for parents with younger children, because especially for mothers, because you still have to balance your work, help that child process what he or she needs to process during the school day, get online, get assignments in, and, succeed. And so it has been a real challenge for some parents. They have who can afford it. They have hired tutors to come in to be with their children, or they have enrolled them in pods that the children could go to these locations and be supervised by adults. But for me, I think that during this time, it's such a wonderful time for parents to get to understand their kids, build that relationship with their kids, and support them through the education process. And I think a lot of parents, I find a lot of parents complain that they're having to do too much. I think for me, it would have been so much fun. My son is an 11th grader, so I don't have to do so much supervision for him. But for a younger child, as a parent, being there and helping the child to develop academically, socially, in a technological world, I think would be fun for me to do. And I would encourage parents to look at that fun side of having that experience. I know it might be challenging, but don't think of it as a challenge. Think of it of an investment that I'm giving to my child, so he or she can be the best that there is.
Yeah, I think this time definitely calls for a lot of flexibility and understanding from parents. And I don't have any kids of my own, but having younger cousins who spent time with me, and, I'm working full time and they're in class, and, they're pretty distracted because they're not used to sitting in front of a screen other than watching a television show that they enjoy. And, that demand on their attention can really take its toll. And so I encourage parents just to recognize that it's not just challenging for them, that this is a very different situation for their children as well, and that it will require and has required an adjustment period. One of the things that could certainly be helpful is planning fun activities when possible outside of school, if there are breaks that, both the parent and the child can take together to schedule something that's fun or something that can help to relieve any stress. I think getting creative in that area can certainly help to reduce some of the challenges, and I think gives both the child and the parent something to look forward to and create an opportunity for bonding.
Okay, good points.
It's interesting because that you guys are saying that, because I know, like, I'm a teacher, and I'm when I am on Zoom having my class, I could see parents just struggling because some parents may have maybe 2 or 3 kids on different platforms, and they're like doing this superwoman job trying to get everybody focused, especially if you have younger kids, and then you have the parents still having to do their jobs. Now, what advice can you give someone who is struggling? Like, I know, what advice can you give? They have to do it. They don't have any outside support. How can they stay mentally healthy, focused? How can you encourage somebody in a situation like that?
Yeah, I think any pocket of time for self-care It could be 2 minutes, it can be 5 minutes, but I think any opportunity that they can find to focus on themselves, them being able to rejuvenate, them being able to gather themselves, to have a moment of peace, whether it's going in the bathroom and locking yourself in there, even if it's 30 seconds, just to like breathe. I think those opportunities can be really helpful in the long term, because I think moms, especially, and dads too, when they're managing multiple children, it's easy to feel like you're constantly on the go. And the only period of respite is when you lay your head down to sleep. And I think just being mindful and intentional about any of those opportunities to take a step back to ensure that they're taking care of their own mental health, because we know, when you're on a plane and traveling, it always talks about put your own mask on first before assisting others. And I think parents being mindful of taking care of their own mental health, taking care of their own health in general, is going to put them in a better position to deal with stress and the challenges that comes from, being a parent in the pandemic.
And that scenario that you identified, Michelle, is very real. I had a parent who she had 4 kids, and the kid that I was working with that had special needs, she just left her in a room. She said, I know this kid is not going to do much, and I cannot, quote unquote, waste my time trying to work with them. With her, I have to work with the other kids that I know who are going to benefit from this experience. But and it was sad. The child is now in the classroom because we are now in a hybrid model. But what I would advise parents to do is to schedule the child's or the children's day. Write out a visual schedule so that they can have it in front of them, and put activities in that schedule that would include movement and deep breathing and reflection and playtime, so that you mix it up and make it really something that a child can look forward to at different intervals of his or her day, and that is manageable. I mean, you may be required to be in the classroom for 45 minutes, but if the child's attention span is only 20 minutes, it's better for you to give the child a break, a water break, a movement break, so that the child can refresh and then come back and gain something, rather than having them sit there and being totally stressed over the entire situation. I have a friend who took his daughter 18 hours away from where he lives to a boarding school because she was basically in bed and stressed out and not doing well. So, you need to cue into your child and know what's happening so that you can provide the best options. And when you think you're out of options, ask a professional. Contact the individuals at your school who are able to provide these resources for you so that you can best serve your child.
Yeah.
I kind of like some of these suggestions by our doctor there. I think they are great advice. Planning is very good, and scheduling the time. I think children like organization, structure, and we need to sort of develop those structures within their day. One of the things that I have noticed with some of our students from time to time is that they seem to be in their beds somewhere. It doesn't seem organized. So I think I would want to advise parents as well that they could help their children to develop a special corner within. It could be their bedrooms or something, but a special corner that is designated for for school, and give them, providing that environment for studying and learning. And so, these are some other things I think I would want to add to the things that you have said.
And no one knows their child more than or better than a parent, right? And I definitely agree with what you're all saying. It's important as parents to advocate for your children. If you see them struggling, then find ways to kind of assist them. And I mean that there's tons of parents who became teachers over this pandemic. Um, when we think about Ellen G. White and what she says about education, that it's not just about going in the classroom. It's the whole picture. It's mental, it's physical, it's spiritual self, and just building all of those things up. I noticed some questions in the chat here. Claudia Barret, she's saying, I'll put up the comment, navigating the platforms they're using can be tricky, especially when the child needs extra help. And helping the child to manage her time is difficult, making sure assignments are done and that she or he really understands. So we see that these are real challenges that parents are having when it comes to the online or even hybrid schooling. Um, can you all speak on, some mental things or some basically some practical things that you can help not just parents but also or college students or high school students deal with online schooling?
Well, I'm
I
not a
just
professional here on mental health, but I think some things were said before, in talking about movement breaks. Uh, and I think one of the things that's missing, is students are not able to integrate with their peers, and I think that in itself can create its own mental situation. They are not able to play the way they used to, and even as a teacher, it has affected me. One of the things I used to enjoy uh, during our downtime at school is actually playing with the students. So I do, yes, I would play with the students. I enjoyed that, and I missed that so much during this time. And I see where it's affecting me. I can just imagine how it's affecting the students as well. So if we can, even as teachers, if we can incorporate some movement breaks within our classroom time, break up you know the sort of academics that's taking place online, and get the students moving, maybe doing some stretches, something, play a game, something that relaxes them, change the mode of activities, I think are some of the things that could help.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. In thinking about, children and young adults in college, their mental health and how it's been affected, not just by the pandemic, but by online learning, I think they're definitely missing out on opportunities to form relationships, to enhance their social connections, and just depending on how young the child is, these are formative years for them to learn how to play together effectively, to learn how to interact and socialize with other kids and their teachers effectively. And I think that's certainly an opportunity that's being missed. And so one tip I would encourage for college students is to ensure that they're scheduling time to find those connections. Typically if you're walking across the lawn on campus, then you may run into people that you typically won't run into. And even those little interactions can make a huge difference in someone's days. And so I think it really calls for, older kids being intentional about scheduling those activities. It can look as simple as a Zoom game night, or watching Netflix together online. For younger kids and their parents, I think also finding opportunities outside of the classroom to have those children connect, whether it can still be virtually if necessary, just to ensure that social distance is maintained, but maybe a 30-minute fun hour at the end of the day with all the kids together, and parents come into agreement on what that time is. And so I think it's really critical to schedule those social interactions. I know for some parents who have had kids in isolation and not, interacting with other children because of the pandemic, it's been several months for some of them. And so I think it's really important, to schedule activities as the time, as time goes on and as the weather gets better, to find those ways for children to have those connections. I think isolation and feeling isolated in this time is something that can easily manifest itself and turn into depression, anxiety. And so I think it's important also for parents to be watchful and mindful of any changes in their kids' attitudes, their behavior, and not just dust it off and brush it off as like, that's them just being kids, but really tuning in, I think, as someone mentioned, to their kids' mental health and how they're adjusting.
I was just going to jump in on that one because I think that it's easy to miss it, especially for the younger kids. We're in a pandemic and, we're busy trying to cope as parents, as teachers, as adults But the little kids, sometimes we miss it, that okay, maybe they might be laughing and having their type of fun, but that this whole thing is also affecting them. And also what Ashley mentioned earlier when she talked about just all of the exams that she had to do, just being overwhelmed by the exams. Sometimes it's not even the exams, it's all the other stuff that's happening around you that has also um, just put so much pressure on you that when you get to having to do the exam, it's just overwhelming. I think that with the college, because they're online, there is a lot of work that's crammed into that online platform that seems a lot more overwhelming than if you were sitting in a classroom. So, it's just a lot to, for the
Yeah.
young child and for the college age students to process. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a lot, and we have no experience of how to handle this situation. There are pros and cons in the whole experience. My son went back to school. His school went into a hybrid model, and after going back to school for 2 weeks, he said, "Mom, I don't want to go back to school. I want to go back to virtual," because he's losing those hours that he was having when he is now traveling back to school, and he's losing that flexibility of staying in bed until half an hour before class, rolling out of bed, jumping in the shower,
Right.
grabbing his breakfast, and just getting online.
Yeah.
And he also talked about, he's an 11th grader. He also talked about, so much work being crammed into, the sessions online, that it's almost impossible to learn all the information. And you tend to feel like you're not learning anything. And mind you, he's a diligent student, and he is saying that. So, there is so much unfamiliarness in this whole experience that we are going through. And what I would want to share with the audience is that the quote that my pastor always says every Sabbath: when we come out of this, let's see if we can keep a positive mindset so we can be better, stronger, and wiser people. I know it's not going to be easy, but the more we focus on the fact that God is with us, He will never leave us or forsake us. He is in the midst of this with us. The more we focus on the positive, the easier it is going to be for us to get through this. So that's my advice. Keep positive, do your best, and let God take the rest and take you through.
Yeah,
very, very good.
I really empathize with our students, especially because it's new to all of us. We have never lived in a time where we have this situation, a pandemic where the entire world has shut down. And now we are talking about having school online fully. So now just think about it for a moment. And if you were to think about our freshmen, um, those just going into college, they have not been properly introduced to what college is. They have not been orientated to the life, and it's a different transition from high school to college. The experience is different, and now they are required to perform at the same level as if they were actually in the classroom. It takes discipline, and it takes a different type of discipline as well. So even a diligent student, when we in a regular classroom setting, just to transition to this online platform, a lot of the work is now required to be completed by the student themselves. A lot, maybe a lot more reading, doing stuff on, in a virtual world, and it's a total different experience. And so, we have to really empathize with them. But we thank God that throughout the process, I think they have been adopting, they have learned some new skills, and I think these new skills are the things that will help them to be successful. And just want to encourage them as well, just to trust in the Lord. He will take them through.
All
Amen.
right.
Well said, well said. When life gives us lemons, we turn them into lemonade, yes?
Yep, we
That's
have
right.
to remember that no matter where we go through, what we go through in life, young or old, We have to always remember that God has promised us that no matter what, He will never leave us nor forsake us. God is in the midst of us, in the midst of the pandemic. So let's encourage our young people, encourage our students that when we're facing difficulties, to always look to God because He is our source. We just want to thank you guys for joining us. Our time has come and gone. It's been a great conversation, and hopefully we can talk a little bit more in the future, because right now we're preparing our students to go fully back out into school. And that shift from being online to going back into full in-person experience is going to be another adjustment. So I just ask you all to keep praying for our young people, and thank you so much for joining us on The Source. We're going to share a short video um, about what's coming up in our area and what's coming up on our next episode of The Source. Thank you, Dr. Domer, Dr. Alert, and Mr. Barret for joining us. Have a
Thank
great
you for
afternoon.
having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.